All right. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. And if you're listening on the replay, this is Strange Tales Weekly. I'm Jess. That's Joe and Mike. And
Hello.
we're super excited, right, guys, tonight to talk about these latest episodes.
Oh, yeah. The Mike-a-thon.
The
Two
Mike-a-thon,
episodes.
that's right. Yep.
Wow, we got to change the name on YouTube to Mike-a-thon because it is truly a Mike-a-thon this session. And if you guys are wondering where Eric is out of town right now, so he will not be joining us, but he'll be back next month and with another great strange tale. If you guys are listening in the audience, feel free to leave a comment, question, suggestion. We want you to be a part of the conversation tonight. So, what's our first story we're going to talk about tonight?
Something called the Dancing Plague. This episode and also the following one, I gotta give kudos to Joe here because for those that don't know the Strange Tales process, we all really are sort of free to bring up any topic that we find of interest. Like probably 80% of the time, that's how it's been for me. But not these two. These were ones that we have like this massive database that Joe provides, and it's a
huge
long list of topics and even some startup on info, and usually most of which I've never heard of, which I kind of like because I look at the titles and it's like going shopping. It's like a catalog. I'm like, this sounds interesting. Maybe we'll try this one on later, see how this works out. And this is one that I kind of, pushed off to the side and also the Mel's Hole one, which we'll do later. But Joe had said he kind of started up this one because he was also interested in it too. So this was actually the first one we did and that I worked on of the series is a collab. Joe did a lot of the writing and I just kind of picked it up from there. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's do it.
Job with it, Joe and Mike. I loved this one. And I love the talking heads in this one, not to spoil it too much, but here is the Dancing Plague.
Dance till you drop. It's a saying that many people use today in good fun, but in the summer of 1518, it became a reality. This event, better known as the Dancing Plague, wound up claiming the lives of hundreds. It's a story that has fascinated and puzzled historians for centuries. So let's dive deeper into this mystery on this episode of Strange Tales Weekly. Hi, I'm Mike Gentile from the rock band Majungas. This strange and terrifying tale began right after the Middle Ages in the city of Strasbourg, France, when a woman named Frau Trofeo walked out into the street in the middle of July and for no apparent reason began dancing uncontrollably. The dancing was nonstop, day and night. Almost a week went by of this behavior and soon others in the city began to join in. Before long, there were hundreds of people dancing alongside her. It became such a problem that local doctors sprang into action. Their best guess at a diagnosis was a condition called hot blood, to which they felt the people were excessively dancing in order to eliminate all that bad juju. So what was their solution? To write a script for more dancing. There was even a stage built so entertainers and musicians, like myself, could encourage everyone to simply dance the night away. Except their plan didn't work. All of this persistent dancing led to a wave of serious medical complications like heat exhaustion, stroke, dehydration, and even fatal heart attacks. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 people died from it in less than a month. One theory of the dancing plague that I propose in my book is that it eerily resembles the effects of amphetamine overdoses like ecstasy, Molly, or other club drugs. Many of these overdoses happen at rave parties where there certainly isn't a shortage of dancing, and the toxicological symptoms are nearly identical, presenting with symptoms of hyperactivity, hyperthermia, and dehydration, just like the people in Strasbourg. When there's additional environmental factors like hot weather, well, the death tolls naturally will rise, which is especially curious to me since the dancing plague happened to occur in July.
The dancing plague was likely caused by a combination of factors, including stress, famine, and religious fervor. People were living in a time of great uncertainty, and the dancing was a way for them to cope with their anxieties.
The madness in Strasbourg came to an end after a few months, but these dancing days would pop up in other scattered locations around Europe in the following years. The reason why they happened, though, still remains a mystery. So what explanation do you side with? Drug use, group psychology, mass hysteria, or even supernatural forces? Perhaps we should ask David Byrne of Talking Heads, since he apparently survived a case of the dancing plague in 1980 when he recorded the music video to Once in a Lifetime.
Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground.
The dancing plague of 1518 remains a fascinating and eerie event in history. Thanks for watching this episode of Strange Tales Weekly, and we'll be back with more strange and unusual stories. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when we upload new videos.
All right, that one is so fun. I like that one.
I gotta say, it was exhausting recording those clips of the Talking Heads. It was the cover wasn't so bad, but to do the moves and stuff, I don't know how David Byrne contorts his body in that manner. It's inhuman.
Such interesting moves in that video.
Yeah, I was very sore the next day.
Gosh, how can we incorporate like a Mike music video in like each video? Because it's so great. I like it. I find it so entertaining.
We could do that, and special thanks to our panel of experts that joined in there, especially Max Cherry.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Mike, what's your favorite theory about why that happened?
Well, honestly, what really drew me to it was that sort of medical angle that one of our experts explored. Because I always sort of do that. Again, I have a background in medical education, and anytime there's like a weird phenomenon, I always sort of explore that angle first. Other examples would be like the Salem witch trials. I don't know if you ever read up on that, but there was like a kid that had these what they described as weird spells where they were sort of thrashing their body all over the place and convulsing and speaking in tongues. And like me, when I hear that, I'm like, well, maybe they were epileptic and they didn't know what seizures were and things like that. And instead they're saying it's like the devil and stuff like that. So, that's always just like the first thing I look at is how can we explain this through the medical angle. And when I read the dancing plague and I read the symptoms, it was like spot on with what you would see in amphetamine overdoses. These recent examples are like rave festivals, especially in the summer. I know a lot of people in the medical field that work those events, and it's just absolute chaos. So many people get sick and ill, some die from the heat exhaustion. And the symptoms are very similar. They're super hyperactive. They're dancing excessively, and when you combine that with like the heat component, which is a bad combination for a rave festival, to schedule it in like August or whatever, but they do, and it kind of similar effects like that. So I just kind of wonder if somebody in Strasbourg spiked the punch with some type of drug that they were experimenting with at the time, and then everybody was just kind of joining in, and it sort of ran its course. And when people caught on, like, hey, stop drinking this stuff, maybe they came to their senses, because it also happened to in other scattered areas. I alluded to that in the episode, but I didn't really dive into it. Like Germany, I know had one, and there was like a handful of other cases and multiple centuries, like in different time periods after that. It was kind of scattered. So that kind of made me wonder, is that, maybe just in these random areas across the globe in that time period, they were coming across these drugs and hallucinogens and, amphetamine type things, mollies, ecstasy is what we would commonly call them today. And maybe they're just having a good time dancing it out. And it, that combination of the bad weather and heat sort of caught up with them.
Yeah, I think maybe ergot fungus on rye, that's the LSD ingredient, and that would kind of make you feel like, oh, you just want to start dancing, Maybe it just, they got a bad batch of bread and they all just started feeling it. Man. And they're like, this is awesome. They just kept going. Oh,
Yeah.
drink a lot. Okay.
Yeah, so Scottsburg people have the reputation to drink a lot. So maybe they were drinking a lot and eating a lot of that hallucinogenic bread.
Yeah. I like that theory.
Yeah, I think too. Our sociologist brought up the point of he brought up the point too that it was the Dark Ages. I mean there were or Middle Ages rather, and it being a time of uncertainty, a lot of various illnesses, causing massive plagues and deaths. Maybe people were just really super hyper anxious, and they, one person just went out and started dancing, and it led to a sort of a domino effect, mass hysteria type thing. I mean, that's always a possibility too, but I don't know. I'm more likely to side with the medical on this one.
Yeah. I mean, they just wanted to dance it out.
Yeah.
Get it out of their system.
A little bit of dancing. But it is an interesting event.
If they only knew what raves would grow to today.
Maybe it was technically one of the first raves.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah. That's awesome. The first rave, 1518.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Could we make shirts of that? Like Woodstock 69 or whatever. Could we get?
Yes.
Rave 1518.
Yes.
Strasbourg.
Yeah.
Annual festival.
If you guys were walking down your street in your town and just like a lady or a couple of people were dancing, do you think you'd join them?
I might. Depends on how I was feeling that day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I had my suit on, I feel like I'd have my superhuman powers. But in street clothes, no, I'd probably run away. Yeah.
If I had some of that funky bread, maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit of that ergot bread.
Yeah.
I'd be like, don't make eye contact.
Yeah. So, all right.
I
Cool.
know. I tell you, I don't know if I would. So, should we? I'm going to do it. Should we dive deep into Mel's Hole now?
Very deep. Yes.
A lot of people have been down Mel's Hole, and
Is it
there aren't
our
many answers. Yeah.
turn to dive into Mel's Hole? So here you go, guys. This one. Let me get that. Another Mike Strange Tales. This is Mel's Hole.
Hi, I'm Mike Gentile from the rock band Majungas, and on this episode of Strange Tales, we're going to explore a mysterious hole in the Pacific Northwest, which has become the subject of urban legends and conspiracy theories. Washington State is no stranger to the absurd, with such occurrences like the UFO incident in Maury Island or roadside troll monuments. And then there's Mel's Hole. Okay, rest assured, this viewing is safe for kids, but you might want to have work-safe mode on when you Google the words Mel's Hole. In the late 90s, the great Art Bell of Coast to Coast AM followed up on a fax that was sent to him by a person named Mel Waters, whose property somewhere around the Monastash Ridge near Ellensburg contained this peculiar hole. Mel said he retired to the area some time ago to pursue his interest in alternative medicine. Even though Waters was reluctant, Bell convinced him to appear on the show and to share these details. Mel described the hole as a 9-foot in diameter bottomless hole that for years him and others in the area would use as a dumping site. Curiosity led them to experiment with disposal of very large items like TVs and fridges, none of which ever made a sound. Even voice projections went echoless, and no animals would dare go near it. Mel never found a bottom to the hole either, measuring over 80,000 feet by using a vast supply of weighted fishing line. The hole had some other strange properties to it as well, like a black beam of light that would project from the opening, and according to one of the other locals, it actually resurrected his deceased hunting dog. The episode sparked an immediate flood of interest from callers and investigators who phoned in to spin wild theories and even lend some advice, none of which could ever be acted on. In the days after the first episode aired, Mel said his property was abruptly blocked off by armed officials, who told him that a plane had crashed there. The more questions that Mel asked, the more the imposing figures became confrontational, even threatening to pin an illegal drug lab on him. After being muscled off his own land, Mel reportedly agreed to sell the property to the government, who offered him a substantial amount of money so that he could relocate to Australia and maybe pursue some of his other various interests. Bell and his audience grew an affinity for Mel's story and had him check in with the show a handful of times over the years. Mel was a bit guarded with his whereabouts, but indicated he had since moved back from Australia to unknown areas of the Pacific Northwest. And despite the large payoffs, he was now broke due to an apparent contract violation. Mel indicated that he was spending these days living somewhat like a vagabond, often hitchhiking rides with truck drivers and scraping by with very little. He even accused the government of continuing to harass him, assaulting him in the most unusual ways, like removing his back teeth, erasing his memory, and even stealing random items from him. If the whole wasn't strange enough, Mel Waters the person added even more intrigue, because no one's ever seen him. Researchers found no evidence of a man named Mel Waters ever residing in that area, but some believers point out it would be easy for the government to wipe out his identity, especially given his sequestered lifestyle. On a number of occasions, Mel stated that he bears an uncanny resemblance to Willie Nelson, but again, no one's ever met him to confirm this, except for a dentist that Art Bell set him up with after he shared the story about his molars being removed. On one of the shows, Bell acknowledged that there was proof Mel's emails were coming from Australia at one point in time, but that's about it. Interestingly though, on one of the later episodes, Mel shared a satellite image of the area found on a Terra server, and surprisingly, it was intentionally whited out, as if it were to be erased. Though some people say it's likely to protect the integrity of the nearby Yakima Military Training Center. Since being pushed off his own lawn, Mel didn't have much to add about the hole in Ellensburg, but he did have some other wild tales about getting involved in a hole that had similar characteristics found in Nevada by a group of Native Americans. The hole has been associated with various conspiracy theories, such as a secret disposal site for radioactive waste. Others claim it's a gateway to another dimension or even to hell itself. A self-proclaimed medicine man who is native to the area named Red Elk said he knew about the hole 40 years prior when he was a child, and he was told stories that dated back to the Yakima Indian Nation. He believed there were alien creatures or cryptids living in the hole to hide from the harsh weather conditions of Earth. Even Red Elk cautioned people never to go in there. Local geologists chimed in with more sensible explanations, like maybe an old mine shaft. Despite all of the search efforts, the only thing people ever found there was an area guarded by no trespassing signs and evidence of a military presence. Maybe Mel's hole is just a big hoax, or maybe it is a whistleblower trying to anonymously tip off something spectacular. Regardless, it remains a fascinating story that continues to fuel the imaginations of strangers like you and I. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. I'll see you next time, strangers. On this episode of Strange Tales Weekly, we are going to plunge deep into Mel's hole. We are going to shine a light into Mel's hole. Probe into the mystery of Mel's hole. Ask for consent to enter Mel's hole. And don't bother trying to reach out to Mel Waters, because apparently he fell into the hole and was never heard from again. The end.
Poor Mel.
Asshole.
The zingers never get old.
And the Oscar goes to Mike Gentile for Mel's hole. I'd be like, thank you.
What's your favorite theory on Mel's hole?
Well, I'm not sure. There was actually, we were discussing something leading up to this show, which I'm kind of intrigued by now. But at first the whole Mel's hole topic, it was actually, I read the title and we were just like laughing about it for a couple of weeks in our group chat, just kind of, I said I should do something on Mel's hole, and then it cascaded from there. I had zero intention on actually doing it, but we laughed about it. And humor is like a big part of everything I do. And you try to rope in a seriousness to it as well, and a sincerity to it. But that kind of what got it started. And the more I was looking at it, I was like, maybe I should just do it and, just kind of let it be what it is. And we'll just have a big laugh. And I wasn't expecting much, but I did my initial research, and I was kind of I was a little confused actually, because there was it seemed like there was two sides of this story. There was like some that kind of had the nuts and bolts of believability, and then there was like another part to it that just sounded delusional, and I couldn't make any sense of it. So I actually went back and I found the episodes. There are 4 episodes of Mel Waters' phone calls, all an hour, 2 hours of discussion, and people calling in and offering support or theories or whatever. And I listened to the first episode and I was like, okay, this guy Mel Waters is his name, and he seems very. He gave me some Bob Lazar vibes. Like he was very eloquent. He was very sophisticated, very intelligent, and consistent with his story too. He didn't really waver much. He didn't really sound like a guy who was trying to gain anything from it. And in fact, the way how the story supposedly started is that this guy sent a fax to Art Bell just to try and ask for help, or like, maybe you got anyone who can help me kind of thing. He didn't have any intention on speaking on air or anything like this. And Art Bell apparently convinced him to get on the radio after they had talked offline for some time. And that's kind of how it all started. The second episode, again, very consistent, very reaffirming. And then, it kind of left it to the point where, they advanced the story a little bit, where now all of a sudden he was kicked off of his land because he accepted a deal from the government, and he took this money and he can, go somewhere else now, but he had no access to the hole. And now people like that lived in that area were kind of curious. So some people were kind of driving around looking for it and stuff. And what really did it for me though is like the last 2 episodes just got very strange. And this is like, I don't remember how many years old, maybe 3 or 4 years of time difference. He would like check in at very odd intervals, but the last one might've been in like the early 2000s when he last called. But I'm telling you, like, they got so bizarre, and the things that he was talking about and saying that things that were happening, it almost sounded like they were trying to purposely like tarnish the story and make it unbelievable so nobody asked about it anymore. And that's kind of when I had like this epiphany. We were talking about this before the show. I've heard in other cases of other shows, and I'm not accusing the Art Bell show by any means, but I've heard of shows that have these scripted calls, where people will, maybe it's a intern or a producer or somebody that is not a recognizable voice, but works for the show and is comfortable being on air, will call in and like fabricate some story just to get ratings or get listeners engaged. And it kind of dawned on me for a second, because I'm like, Mel Waters, this guy who lives like a hermit, in the middle of the woods and off the grid, doesn't socialize with anybody. He seems pretty conversational to me. He seemed very eloquent, well-spoken, So I couldn't get it out of my head for a minute there. And I was like, I wonder if that had something to do with it. Then what made that theory even more interesting is something else that very strange happened on the Art Bell show in 1997. So if Mel Waters happened in February, I believe it was, in September of that same year, maybe some of you have heard of this, it was the Area 51 blackout caller, where somebody from supposedly worked at Area 51 and very, like Bob Lazar type stuff, found aliens and spacecrafts, and he's blown the whistle on this thing. And then abruptly the show just like cut out, and it was black for the rest of the day, I guess, or the evening. And it was like this big story, like the blackout call, and maybe the government had something to do with it. So I just kind of wonder if something like funny was going on with the programming and development at that time to try and boost ratings. It's a possibility, because the Mel Waters calls in the first 2 did not make sense with the last 2.
Yeah, I've heard that blackout call like sampled in music, and I had to check it out. I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, you got to think like there's not always amazing stuff, callers coming on. You got to cook some stuff up once in a while, probably. And
Yeah.
But they could also the way you said that he sounded more feasible in the first calls, and then he just got crazy. That is a technique. They would try to make that person crazy. Kind of gaslight them and maybe make weird stuff happen around them on purpose just to make them sound crazy.
True.
Yeah, like what are the odds? Because he found like another hole, or I don't know how the second hole came about. Somebody told him about it or something?
Yeah, so that was part of like the third or maybe fourth episode even, and that's kind of when I was like, I almost didn't finish the episode because it was just getting so weird. But he said some group of I believe Native Americans in Nevada, which is he was from Washington apparently, and bounced around that area. But somebody heard of Mel Waters and his story about the hole, and they said, we have something similar. It's in a well. And we want your help on it. So they got him to come down there, and they found this hole, this massive hole, very similar physics that Mel was used to. And what was weird about it, and like unbelievable about it, is they sacrificed some live animal. They put it in a cage and they like lowered it down to see what would happen, and it like went through a big struggle. They pulled it back up, and when they pulled it back up, they noticed that it had a very large tumor or like growth in its body. So one of the Native Americans or whatever just like cut it open, and this like creature came out and like started dancing, and it was they did the dancing plague. Yeah, I don't know. He it all connects. It started like running around, and it looked at Mel, and it was like communicating with them, and Mel like felt a bond with it. I was just like, whoa, this is. Let's go back to Washington. I was buying that. I was kind of buying into that story a little bit. I don't know where this is going, but and that was coincidentally that was the last time they ever talked to him. So.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe they started the story and then they just kept going, getting crazier and crazier with it.
Yeah,
they went too far.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody knows anybody that worked on the show or interned on the show, whatever. But if you have any type of insight, where was Mel an actual real caller from somewhere, and what was their opinion of it? I'd be curious because I've left with more questions I think than answers.
Yeah. Or if Art Bell ever created stories, because
sure,
they needed some.
Yeah.
But, there are stories about inner Earth civilizations and stuff, which kind of makes you wonder, with these deep caverns and stuff. Could be, and it was in the mountains, so it could have been some entrance to some kind of deep underground military base or something.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
You would think the government would know about it if that were the case. They wouldn't have been surprised. But yeah, it could have been like some old race extraterrestrials or something living in there.
Yeah. Plus, isn't there a lot of like I don't know how it works with boundaries. I know like there's a lot of Native American grounds that nobody touches. Like they they preserve and let them have it. So maybe that crossed that boundary and like they knew something weird was there, but they just kind of left it because they were there. So it's possible.
Yeah, I sent you the forum page with some people speculating on this one hole that's like nearby on Google Maps.
Yeah, I saw that.
It looks pretty interesting, but if it was Mel's hole, supposedly that's all like blocked off or it's hidden now or something, covered it up somehow.
Yeah, I think they said the area or the property where his house was or where he was living had since been boarded up, and so you can't really access it without crossing, no trespassing signs kind of thing.
Yeah. And the one that I sent is like north of that town, Ellensburg. I think the hole was supposed to be like west of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was supposed to be in a heavily forested, wooded area. So,
yeah,
who knows? That's pretty interesting, though.
Road trip time.
Let's go. So you're saying you want to go visit Mel's Hole?
Maybe I've been there subconsciously.
Oh, you've like maybe you've traveled there already, like in your out of body experiences.
That's what I do. Yeah, I don't research. I go like this, and it all just programs.
That'd be interesting. I wonder if any remote viewers have tried to remote view Mel's Hole.
That is. I'm a child. I just keep laughing at all the Mel's Holes joke the whole time.
I mean, that's what started it.
I know.
we were giggling like this for weeks, and I'm like, all right, let's just do it. Let's go.
I read that a lot of people have made that trek out there, though, trying to find it, but no luck.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's an intriguing story. It just plays on a lot of curiosity, and just the idea of this never-ending hole is pretty interesting. But yeah, it could just be a good story. Who knows?
Yeah, there was another angle, and I'm not, an investigative journalist or anything, but I kind of thought about seeing a way we could explore it or find a contact or something, but after supposedly the payoff that Mel Waters had from the government, he went to Australia and he took upon some various interests. And one of the things he spent a lot of times talking about on the Art Bell show was this like wombat rescue, and he created like this organization, and he had workers for him and stuff. And I go, well, eventually it went under because he ran out of money and the government stopped paying him. And then he ended up back in Washington. But that's like, obviously somebody would have known like that somebody did that. Some American just came there in the late 90s. There can't be too many wombat like rescue, things over there, especially during that time. So I was curious to like look up a wombat society in Australia and just be like, you guys, anybody know Mel Waters? Is he like a legend out there? Or is there any feasibility that some American could just come here and just do something like this in the 90s? Or, but I never followed up on that.
That's a good point. There's got to be some record of it if it existed.
Right, yeah.
Some flyers or something.
I'm curious on how many wombat rescues there are now in Australia to see like...
Yeah.
And if it was fake, I mean, that's pretty... I always look for like really unique things in a story. Like, why would somebody just wombat? I mean, I guess wombats are like common there in Australia. Maybe you just thought of some Australian animal and like, oh, made a rescue for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always look for like kind of unique things in the story. It's like, why would somebody think of that? But there's some creative people out there that could just create that.
Yeah.
But usually that makes it feel more like legit if there's something really unique and strange about it.
True. Yeah.
Maybe Brian. Brian says, perfect place for astral projection. Astral projection to Mel's Hole. Sorry.
Well, good luck. Let us know how that goes.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stop. It's too funny. I don't like for me listening to it's a great story. I've done a lot of late night radio too, and sometimes the stories you hear are out there, and sometimes you wonder if people are making them up. So one thing I thought too is if it wasn't set up, say by Art Bell, is it a caller just kind of calling in and kind of doing a bit and seeing how far he can go with it?
Yeah, that was the other aspect too. Is somebody could have done that, and then maybe it got too real, and people like Joe said started to go out there and find this thing and stuff, and I'm sure the locals out there don't want a bunch of weirdos like like us going out there with flashlights and maps. You know where Mel's Hole is.
We'll be doing it out there.
So yeah, maybe he was just like, yeah, I better yank this one, before it gets too out of hand. So yeah, it's a possibility too. It could have just been somebody looking for a fun time.
What does the chat think? Legit or not legit? Mel's
That's
Hole.
good.
Let's do a vote. I'm going to vote.
Oh, yeah, let's vote, guys. And then I will read Sylvain's comment here. Fake or real?
I'm going to vote not legit.
Not.
It's a story.
Yeah, I'm going to say fake.
Okay.
All right.
Does anybody in the audience think it's real? Because if not, we're going to vote this one fake. I'll give you guys a second.
Well,
Sylvain says
they're going to let us know how the remote viewing goes.
Nobody has any comments on Mel's Hole? Or we're the only one?
Sylvain's going to let us know once he RVs it.
You're going to look into Mel's Hole remotely? Sorry, I'm just going to keep saying it like that till this episode is over. When is the other chance? There's no other story where I'll get a chance.
Yeah. Well, all right. Yeah, I don't know. I think it, like you said, that guy, was some backwaters guy. I think he would have sounded more like some crazy hick if it was legit. He sounded like an actor or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that stood out. He's very, very eloquent, well-spoken, and really didn't stumble at all in his story. So it's, I don't know. It could have just been coincidence. Maybe he reads and, I don't know. But yeah, no, it was fun. I'm glad I did these episodes. They were fun topics. Even if I didn't believe it at the end, it's still fun to explore.
Awesome. Well, you did a good job. I like them. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
What do we got coming up in episodes? I'm doing creatures of Filipino folklore, kind of monsters and ghosts and stuff. That's a big part of their culture. So we interviewed some Filipinas, so that was interesting.
Awesome.
So, working on that. I'm not sure I forget what Eric's doing. I know, Mike, you got one. What is it?
I have a bloop. The bloop is
the bloop.
Yeah.
And that's the sound that came out of, what was it? Oh, the ocean?
I believe it was the Pacific.
Okay.
But yeah, it was an anomalous sound that sort of was captured by some sound detections in the water, and it was like really, really loud, and no one ever captured anything that loud. But what was interesting about it is it bared similar characteristics to like a marine animal. So that kind of created the mystique of what's this large megalodon type creature in the waters,
Awesome. Look forward to that.
Yeah.
I hope you got some zingers in there, per usual.
I know Mike has set the bar for the funny, so I need to. I looked up Eric's. Eric is doing something with MK Ultra.
Ooh.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna try to do one, and I have no idea. No idea. I need to go through our shopping list of topics so I can pick one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anybody can suggest any too if they have any ideas. Just comment on one of our videos. Let us know some topic ideas.
Yeah, topics, ideas. I think it's a lot of fun too if we can get you guys kind of in on helping us with some topics, and we'll cover them. It's a lot of fun.
Show.
Definitely.
So
right.
I'm not sure the next time we're doing a live. Because are you out next month, Joe?
Yeah. So we got episode next week and the week after. I'll be good for the middle of September though.
Mid-September.
Yep. I'm leaving like more at the end of September.
Okay, so we can probably get another live in before you leave.
Yeah.
Get us all 4 together.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
What else? Is there anything else? Live stream update.
Yeah, I think I'm good. If anybody's got anything else to say in the comments, let us know.
I think
Sylvain's excited about MK Ultra.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, like Eric was saying in the chat, it's like you're doing a creature episode and he's doing kind of an
Yeah.
MK Ultra episode. It seems like Joe would more do an MK Ultra episode, and
Yeah.
Eric always does like the creature or cryptid episode. It's a mind swap.
Yep. It's good to expand your horizons a bit and do something
It's
different.
true. It's true. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got lots of great topics coming out for everybody. I'm really excited. We are rolling deep into Strange Tales Weekly Season 2.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Remember to like and subscribe, guys, and we'll drop a new episode every week like usual. Until then.
All right. Later,
Thanks,
chat.
guys.
Stay
Later,
strange.
guys.
Stay strange, guys.